Everyone says eSIMs are the easy way to stay connected on a cruise, but here's the truth. There are things no one tells you about them until it's too late, and they can cost you hundreds of dollars. So before you buy a cruise eSIM, here's what you really need to know. These are the insider tips. Number 1, not all eSIMs work at sea. Most eSIMs are land-based. Even if they say global, they're usually covering ports, not the open ocean. So if you're going on a cruise, you must select a cruise eSIM. At sea, ships use maritime satellite networks, so your standard global eSIM isn't going to connect. That's when people panic, thinking their eSIM is broken. So make sure you click on Cruise eSIMs and select the ship and the region that's relevant to your trip. But you can also buy both, and that's number 2 tip. Double up for savings. Now this is the hack no one mentions. You may not have to choose between a cruise eSIM and a regular eSIM. Use a cruise eSIM only at sea and buy the cheaper local or regional eSIM for when you dock. Then you switch between them in your phone settings and you'll slash your costs in half or more. Number 3, beware of the always on trap. Now many first-time users forget this. A cruise eSIM will happily keep running in the background even when you're in port. Now that can eat up your allowance in a single day. Set your eSIM, or eSIMs if you buy both a cruise and local plan, to manual selection so it doesn't auto-connect to the satellite network when you don't need it. Then you have control and can easily toggle between the plans as needed in your own settings. And another reason to manually control the networks instead of letting your phone auto-select is for the next tip, which is number 4, time zone glitches. eSIMs are renowned for resetting themselves when you cross multiple zones or borders quickly, like you do when you're cruising across countries or the international dateline. Sometimes your phone will latch onto the wrong carrier when this happens, or you may even think your plan has expired. The solution is to control what plan is on and what is off. So go to Settings, Mobile Data or Cellular Data on some phones, and toggle the Allow Mobile Data Switching tab to Off. Then you can switch between the plans in your eSIM settings as needed. Number 5, activation gotchas. Many eSIMs start counting down the data or the days of the plan the moment you scan the QR code, not when you start actually using the data. So if you install it before your cruise, which I recommend doing so it's ready to go, just be careful not to activate it until the morning of your cruise or even the day before, just to have it all tested and ready. If you leave it too long, you may be at sea and have no Wi-Fi to even get it activated. But if you activate too soon, you could lose half your plan before you even leave port. So my tip is to always download the QR code at home, but only activate it at the airport or when you're on your way to your cruise. And to be extra sure you don't get stuck, this is my next tip. Number 6, screenshot your QR code. This one has saved me stress. Once you're at sea, you might not have enough signal to re-download the QR code from your provider. Always screenshot it or save it to your files before you board, because once you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you won't be able to retrieve it if something goes wrong. Number 7, blackout zones. Don't buy an eSIM thinking it will completely replace Ship Wi-Fi. It won't. It's not a replacement, but it is a cheaper and, let's say, less effective substitute at best. But you'll have limitations that you won't have with Ship Wi-Fi. And I want to include these here because there are blackout zones and restricted areas, like between port and about 14 nautical miles to sea. So that's about 30 to 60 minutes of no connectivity every time you leave a port. But that's why having a regional or local SIM as well will help you. You can simply switch it over, and then when you're on your day trips, you'll still have Wi-Fi. Now that's a one-up on Ship Wi-Fi, because once you leave the port, you leave the expensive Ship Wi-Fi behind too. The blackout zones never bothered me because when I got back on the ship and the ship was leaving, I'm usually out on the deck taking pictures or in the buffet eating. But just keep that in mind in case it might impact you. Number 8, coverage map myths. Providers show coverage everywhere, but on cruises that just means the port or the city, not necessarily the surrounding islands or bays. For example, you might dock in Airlie Beach in North Queensland and the SIM works fine, but on Whitehaven Beach, which is an island about 30 minutes away, you might get nothing. Always cross-check coverage maps with your actual ports, because even when it looks like coverage is everywhere, I can assure you, it's not. Number 9, this is the layered connection trick. Now, pro cruisers will use this all the time without thinking. Connect your phone to the ship's free Wi-Fi so you can access their onboard app. This will allow you to check schedules, book shows, etc. You won't have access to this if you're not connected to their free Wi-Fi. But what you want to do is route your actual internet through the eSIM. That way you get the best of both worlds. No extra Wi-Fi fees, but your apps and browser still work seamlessly. Again, turning off that auto-connecting function and maintaining control of your internet connection is key for this also. Number 10, data leak plug. Here's something hardly anyone tells you, but it is the biggest drain on your cruise eSIM. And it isn't scrolling Instagram, it's all the background apps on your phone quietly syncing in the background like iCloud or Google Photos, app updates. Even your email can chew through gigabytes before you've had your morning coffee. So the fix is simple. Before you sail, go into your phone settings and switch off background app refresh and automatic updates. Also set your photo backup apps to Wi-Fi only. Suddenly your 1 gig eSIM plan will last days instead of hours. This is one of those insider tricks that can literally save you $50 to $100 on data. Number 11, speed and connectivity. Now this is the biggest issue people have with eSIMs. It's the speed of the eSIM at sea. Satellite bandwidth is limited and everyone on board is competing for it and using it. So you will find it best at quieter times or less popular times, like late at night or when everyone is at dinner or watching shows. The speed won't be the same though, and it won't be as stable as the ship Wi-Fi. Cruise eSIM speeds typically range from 0.5 to 5 Mbps. So you can compare my home NBN network speed, which is about 100 Mbps, with some plans even going up to 1000, depending on the provider. Well, that's a big difference, but you're never getting land speed connection at sea, not even on the ship. So a better comparison would be looking at the cruise eSIM against the ship Wi-Fi. So let's take a decent ship Wi-Fi package. It's somewhere between 5 and 10 Mbps with the premium plans. But it's also more reliable even at busy times. So unlike the cruise eSIM, it's not going to have as much dropout or be so low you can't even connect at all, which can happen with cruise eSIMs. So practically cruise eSIMs are fine for messaging, for emails, WhatsApp calls, social media scrolling, Google Maps, those kind of things. But very painful for video calls, uploading YouTube videos, streaming Netflix or big file downloads. Consider what you want it for, because that's really going to be the determiner between whether a cruise eSIM or ship Wi-Fi is right for you. Number 12, don't forget airplane mode. This is something I've been asked so many times. It's about whether or not you need to turn airplane mode on or off. Well, by turning it on, you will block all the SIMs and the networks by default, and definitely you'll avoid those crazy roaming charges if you haven't turned roaming off or you're not sure how to. It's a good strategy to protect yourself, but the problem is your eSIM needs data roaming on to function. So if you've taken my advice and manually decided to control those SIMs, then you'll probably need airplane mode off, leaving only your cruise eSIM active. But if you are a total beginner and stressing about extra charges, then you can leave airplane mode on. But you'll need to activate data roaming just for the cruise eSIM. For more confident users who are familiar with managing their eSIM settings, then turning airplane mode off is fine, as long as you disable all the other SIMs manually. It gets confusing. So look, if you need a step-by-step guide in how to set up your cruise eSIM, I made a video just for you, and I'll link it right here and also in the description section below. Hopefully after both of these videos, you're all set to go. I promise after using it, it is nowhere near as scary as you might think. So there you have it. Cruise eSIMs can be a lifesaver, but only if you understand their limits. They won't keep you constantly connected with high speeds in the middle of the ocean, but they can give you freedom when you step off the ship. And isn't that what traveling is all about? It's finding that balance between connection and disconnection. So for me, I don't need constant connection, and I'd rather save my money. For more cruise and travel tips and for some personal highlights of ports and places I've been, join me on my Soul Compass channel and we can explore together. But for now, happy sailing and goodbye.